Welcome back to An Alternate Hugh. I'm Hugh Anderson, and this is my final segment of the book report on Unsettled by Stephen E. Koonin. According to Koonin, the assessment reports I discussed in the prior segment mislead by omission. Mislead. That's pretty strong stuff. Albert Einstein said, "The right to search for truth implies also a duty. One must not conceal any part of what one has recognized as true." According to Koonin, the media's use of hurricanes as an example of the ravages of human-caused climate change is at best unconvincing and at worst plainly dishonest. Weather radar can now detect even very weak tornadoes from distances of over 100 miles. Before radar, these storms weren't counted. So the growth in the number of recorded storms is due to counting more weak storms in recent decades. And here's an additional fact. 60% of tornadoes in the U.S. are rated in the lowest category. Droughts? Even the length and intensity of the most recent cycle in the desert Southwest falls within historical parameters. In fact, there is high confidence, according to scientists, for droughts during the last millennium of being of greater magnitude and longer duration than those observed since the beginning of the 20th century. Now, we've all seen this wonderful picture. The picture of the Statue of Liberty half submerged underwater due to rising sea levels from climate change. Fact. The tide gauge at the tip of the Battery in Manhattan shows that the sea level there has been rising at an average rate of 1 foot per century since 1855. So at that rate, it would take 20,000 years to reach the level implied by that cartoon. Depending upon where you measure sea levels, you will get different results. Eugene Island on the Gulf Coast is experiencing a 0.38-inch rise per year, while Skagway, Alaska is seeing a 0.71-inch decline. Senate Bill S-729 would have prohibited the use of funds to federal agencies to establish a panel, task force, advisory committee, or other effort to challenge the scientific consensus on climate change, and for other purposes. Dare not ask any questions lest you be starved of federal funding. Thankfully, that foolishness never went anywhere. So how should you become a discerning climate change information consumer? Be alert to red flags. Referring to any credible scientist as a denier or alarmist is engaging in politics or propaganda. Referring to the 97% consensus? What are they agreeing to? That the climate is changing? Of course it is. It always has. But where is the consensus on why? Confusing weather for climate, that's another problem. One bad year does not a permanent change make in the climate. Omission of data or varying time spans, cherry-picking the data. Quoting alarming quantities without context. Confusing actual climate history with climate forecasts made with fallible models, very fallible models. You can go to the data at the EPA.gov website or the NOAA.gov website, and you can get all the data you want. Now, of course, it's raw, and it's not usually for the consumption of mere mortals like you and me, perhaps, but for the scientists, it's there, and it can be interpreted with varying perspectives. And also beware which baseline climate change data is using. Are there solutions? Perhaps, according to Koonin. At least two ways to counter the warming planet. One is to make the Earth a bit more reflective by increasing its albedo so it absorbs less energy. There is the term solar radiation management. The second is carbon dioxide removal, which literally removes carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, helping to offset human emissions. Stay tuned for developments on both fronts. The next big report is the UN's AR6 report, which was due out in July of this year. How will they discuss the failure of forecast models to date? Will they mention there have been no long-term trends in hurricanes or that a 3 degrees Celsius increase in global temperatures will have minimal economic impact on the global economy? We'll see. This series of videos was not intended to deny climate change, nor the fact the occupants of planet Earth are having an impact. What they were intended to do is to make us question the steady stream of fear-mongering we're being force-fed daily and asked questions. I can't recommend the book Unsettled by Stephen E. Koonin enough. It's written for we non-scientists, but may just in fact change the dialogue we've been hearing for far too long. This has been An Alternate Hugh. I'm Hugh Anderson. I appreciate you watching. Until next time, if the creek don't rise, I'll see you then.